Welcome to the EmpowerHer Wellness podcast. I'm Morgan, and I'm thrilled to be your host and wellness coach as we navigate the path to a healthier, more confident you. As the owner of Get Fit With Me, I bring years of experience in personal training, nutrition, and coaching to each episode. Join me as we explore practical tips and strategies for fitness, nutrition, mindset, and more, all tailored for busy women just like you. Let's empower your wellness journey and achieve lasting transformation together.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to an episode of the EmpowerHer Wellness podcast. I'm your host and coach, Morgan Ekovich. And today we have somebody here that is super amazing in my holistic approach to health. And I'm excited to share her with you guys. We have Dr. Rachel Herman with us. She is my chiropractor. We met back in 2021, I believe, through a client of mine at the time. And I was noticing that with my transition from being an in-person trainer to the COVID transition we all had to being more of an online trainer, I was having some of these weird aches and pains that I'd never had before. I'd been to chiropractors. I enjoy the chiropractic experience. I find my body receives it really well, but I really wasn't sure what to do next. So Rachel and I started working together. And two of the things that I absolutely love that she does, and we're going to talk about it a little later, is she doesn't just adjust you and then send you on your way. We create a plan of, hey, this is what's going on. This is what we need to focus on for the next X amount of time till I see you next on your own time. So she gives you homework, which we talk about homework. It's not just about this like 1 hour of you doing your thing. There's repetitive motions you need to do. And the second part is she comes to my house. She has her own practice, but she's a traveling chiropractor as well. And it's so awesome. We book up my appointment. It fits right in with my schedule. And sometimes she works with people who are just one-on-one like me, or these big, massive families that have grandma and grandpa, aunts, uncles, and all the grandkids. And she spends a whole day just adjusting the same family in the same home. So welcome, Rachel. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yay. So start us off a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your journey to become a chiropractor. What inspired you to get into this work and how you're still passionate about it all these years later?
Actually, growing up, I grew up on my grandparents' dairy farm in Western New York. And I remember going several times with my grandparents to the chiropractor. And I always thought it was interesting, but I myself never got adjusted. And it gets to be time when you graduate high school and figure out what you're going to do. And I was like, you know what? I liked that. I really liked that it was a natural approach. So I started undergrad at Villa Maria College in Buffalo, transferred to Life University in Marietta, Georgia, and then went on to Logan Chiropractic College in St. Louis, Missouri, where I graduated in 2004 with my doctor of chiropractic degree, practiced in New York for a couple of years, and then moved out here to Michigan, and I've been here since 2006. I really like chiropractic because it is the more holistic, natural approach to things where I tend to live a majority of the time. And I love that our body, when given the right environment and the right tools, actually has this innate intelligence inside of us that can actually heal almost anything when it's given the right environment and tools. So that's what keeps me going. And no two people are the same. So everything is kind of new every day. And even every time I see you, we're not adjusting the same thing every single time. So it's always constantly changing, which I really like.
That's awesome. And you work not primarily with one group. You work with all genders, all body types, all professions, correct?
Correct. Yep. I love all of them.
So this group is primarily for women. So let's kind of tune into more of women, and we tend to put ourselves lower on that totem pole, which you and I talk about. Rachel and I talk about a lot of things. When she's adjusting me, we catch up on life, we talk about work, we do all the things. And some of the women that you see, whether they're moms or business owners or their grandparents at the time, whatever that is, what are some of the things that you see when you start with them? So some of those hesitations, they come with you of, are you going to break my neck? Are you going to do this? I think there's so much chatter out there that we tend to lean into that. So what are some of those concerns for people? And how do you address those of this is safe, this is going to help your body type of situation?
Yeah, great question. I see that all the time, especially people that have not had experience or maybe have talked to family members that maybe they went and did not have a great experience at first. I walk you through everything, right? Nobody knows your body better than you do. So I want to take in any and all information that you want to give me. So when someone comes in and they're genuinely concerned, I think first thing, just listening to what they have to say and letting them know that you genuinely care is a big part of chiropractic from my perspective, I should say. So when you hear those noises in particular, that's a big concern. Oh my gosh, when I hear those noises, that mean you're hurting my bones or, right? You're going to break my neck. Thankfully, we go through extensive training, so that does not happen. But like those noises in particular, those cracking sounds are from the release of nitrogen gas that gets built up in a fixated joint. So believe it or not, it's actually not the bone on bone. And that's why sometimes you hear that noise and sometimes you don't. If someone is concerned about a manual type of adjustment, having their head in someone else's hands, the good news is there are a variety of techniques out there. So whatever a patient is comfortable with, and given what history they have, we can really cater to what's going to make them most comfortable. So I often talk to them like, okay, what do you have going on? This is the type of technique and the type of adjustment I think that would work best for this. Are you comfortable with this? Because this is what it entails. And if they prefer to even start on a lighter scale, I have a spring-loaded adjusting tool called an activator. So I can even start with that where you don't actually hear the popping and cracking that typically people associate with chiropractic.
Awesome. And I think we all have those hesitations. Like I started going to the chiropractor in high school when I was playing volleyball. I was doing a lot of extension. When you go up and you set or you serve, there's a lot of extension happening. And I remember my low back getting really contracted in group right courses. So there's just a lot of things. And I didn't blink an eye because I was in high school. And it was just what you did. It was just like the natural path. But I think as adults, we tend to have we've seen more things, we know more things, we talk to more people, and we have more of those hesitations. For the people who are like, okay, so I know you're going to address my concerns. When is a good time for me to come in? Is it when I have a severe issue? Is it when I start to feel something inconsistently? Or do I come when I'm feeling like $1,000,000? Like, where on that scale should someone say, I might want to see a chiropractor because of this?
Okay, so my answer is going to seem a little cliche at first, but at any point in time in that process and at any age, you can start chiropractic care. Ideally, most people tend to start when they are in some kind of pain, right? Because it's keeping us from doing something we usually enjoy doing or from work that we have to get done. And that's honestly the biggest reason people come in. And that's great. But you have to remember pain is usually the last thing that's going to show up. So you could be out of alignment for days, weeks, months, sometimes even years and not actually have any physical pain from that. But meanwhile, you're creating little micro traumas at those levels that are going to start on a microscopic level breaking down. And over time, that's going to add up. So the sooner you can get in and get evaluated and get adjusted, the better. But pain is usually the biggest trigger because when people come in, after they get adjusted, they tend to find relief pretty quickly.
Okay, so I'm thinking through my own body. And a lot of times we work with my wrist because I use a mouse, I sit in front of a computer, and I don't necessarily from the day to day, I've told you this, I don't feel like, oh, my wrists hurt. But every once in a while, I will start towards the end when I'm getting ready to see you again, I'll start to get numbness in my arms when I sleep. And and our body is all connected. So what are some things that people can notice are little micro traumas that they can start to notice before I can't move my neck or until the big trauma occurs? What are some micro traumas that they should start to be aware of?
So if they are, like you said, if they're on their computer a lot, if they catch themselves with their head leaning forward a little bit, because when we get, I don't know about you, even myself, if I'm really intensely working on something, I tend to gravitate closer to it. And that can create issues, right? So we have the thing that they've dubbed it now text neck too, or teenagers a lot with their head down. And you can start noticing a little bit increased hump in that lower neck, upper back area. That's a real good indication that you're actually starting to make some changes in the cervical spine, not for the better. So you definitely want to get that checked out. As funny as it sounds, if you have one pant leg that feels longer than the other, right? Sometimes you're like, oh, why is this pant leg touching the ground? Or why does my leg feel a little shorter on that side? oftentimes your hips or pelvis or even lumbar spine can be out of alignment. And if the base of your spine is not going to be stable, it's going to allow the rest of the spine to form some compensation subluxations, which can trigger that all the way up the spine. So if you walk by a mirror too, I always say this is a good one, walk by a mirror and just stand up. If you can see one of your shoulders is higher than the other, that's also a pretty good indication that something's probably going on in there. So those are
Okay.
sick, non-pain things that you can look out for.
Yeah. And I think one of the things we've talked about in just about every episode with every guest I've had on is the importance of noting and tracking these things. Our brains are so busy that I make note in my calendar when I woke up with some numb arms today. I'm like, when do I see Rachel? When was the last time I saw her? We're getting close. I pushed my weeks a little too far because we've created a program where I can go a little bit longer because I'm also doing the preventative care on the other side.
Yes.
So some of the other things that I remember when I started, when I was in high school, was I was going like 3 or 4 times a week. And I felt like I was in and out in 5 minutes. And I work with you and you're there. Yes, we talk, but we're there and you're adjusting me for at least 15, 20 minutes. I would say maybe that's an exaggeration, but it's a longer stretch of time. So what is the benefit to a longer adjustment? What types of things do you end up touching on someone's body rather than just a quick in and out type of thing? And a frequency. What's frequency that should be normal? We are all different. Everything's customized. But what is something that's actually realistic when it comes to a frequency?
So if someone's in acute amount of pain, right? Like I bent over, I picked something up, and now I can't stand up. You might actually need to come in and be seen a little bit more frequently. So maybe a couple of times a week for a few weeks to get that inflammation and that alignment back in place where it's actually holding proper alignment. So in those instances, like I might need to see you more frequently. For someone that's just coming in, right, for wellness or maybe just little bits here and there, I typically see those patients once a month, once every 6 to 8 weeks, right? Because for me, I personally feel if you're doing those little things outside of the office to help maintain that alignment, I shouldn't have to see you every single day or every single week, right? Because you're doing all of the things necessary and providing your spine and the rest of your body with what it needs to keep going. I personally have found the type of adjustment I've morphed into doing over the years. The body works together, right? All of the systems. We oftentimes, medical doctors, and this is not a jab at anything, but they tend to isolate things, right? So if someone has something going on with the knee, they're going to see the orthopedist. If someone has something going on with migraines, maybe they're going to see the neurologist. And they're all separate issues. But really, I like to take it in a collective part because our body works as a whole unit. We're not individual pieces, right? They all come together. So I like to work on soft tissues. I will work on extremities. Maybe someone tripped going up the curb, and the reason why their inner knee and outer hip is bothering them is because they torqued their heel bone, and that's been out of place, rubbing just a little bit. And that's why they have that misalignment all the way through. So I personally feel if I can check all of those areas, now they're not all going to have to be adjusted all the time, but if I can make sure that they're in check, stretch your psoas muscle if needed, work on your forearm muscle to help that the body hold its adjustment a little bit better, I just find that it's better off for the patients because then it's easier for them to do the work they need to do when I'm not there also.
I'd agree with that. It's a very relaxing experience. I'm always very relaxed. And I don't know if it's the comfort of my home or if it's you or if it's the fact that I feel like my whole body has just gotten a little bit of fresh air before. Yeah, like a release. I can physically and mentally feel that at the end of our sessions of, wow, that was a really great exhale. And I feel the same way after a massage. And part of that could also just be how important touch is for us as humans to have that physical touch in our life. So when we think about post-adjustment care, what are things, heat, ice, ibuprofen, walking, stretches, strength training, like what types of post-treatment care is recommended for, let's go with just a general adjustment. Nobody that's come in with super chronic pain, somebody that's on a, let's say 4 to 6 week rotation of what types of post-care should they be focusing on?
Okay, then usually we don't have to worry about the ice or heat because that's more of acute situations or something else going on. So we can put that to the side. Staying hydrated for me, first and foremost, is important, right? Our discs are 90% water. Good job. Our discs are 90% water. And the thing is, they don't have that direct blood supply. So if they get damaged, we hear about disc bulges, disc herniations, it's going to take exponentially longer for them to heal, especially if that their resources aren't available in the tissue surrounding them, which is how they take in what they need. So first and foremost, hydration. Second is making sure you're getting really good sleep at night, but supported sleep in a great position. So ideally, you're either going to be on your back with a pillow under your knees or a little pillow underneath your neck, or you can be on your side. Right now, it makes no difference to me, right or left. Put the pillow between your knees, and sometimes it'll go from your knees to your ankles. And then you can even have that body pillow where your arms are here, and then a good supportive pillow underneath your head. And what people don't realize is most of us are, not most of us, but many of us will, right, bring our head exactly head up underneath. And what that signifies is that you don't have enough pillow support because your arms should not be coming up underneath to help support that, which means you need to get a little bit thicker pillow. And so to gauge that, I say, instead of buying a new pillow right away, get a towel, especially like maybe a bath towel, fold it up once or twice, put it in your pillowcase, but underneath your pillow. So you still get the soft part of your pillow and play with that over a couple of days and see what kind of thickness feels best where you don't have to bring your arm up underneath your head and jam your lower cervical spine. So sleep and hydration are important. I usually don't recommend major hardcore workouts after an adjustment. Like you can go walk, you can do treadmill, elliptical, that kind of stuff afterwards. But really the first 24 hours for me, I consider the most important as far as what you're doing. If you can be mindful of what you're doing for the rest of the day of that adjustment until you wake up the next day, you're going to have a much better chance of holding that adjustment a lot longer.
And I'm going to go 2 ways on this. First, that pillow.
Yeah.
I noticed last night I was laying down and I'm like, wow, my pillow's really lumpy. So I like rotated it and the other side was flat. I've probably had my pillows way longer than anybody should ever know that I've had these pillows. But they've always been good. But it wasn't until last night when I noticed that, because I think a lot of us have multiple pillows on our bed and you change the pillowcase and sometimes you forget which one is on top is your normal sleeping pillow. Totally figured out which one was not my sleeping pillow last night. I was like, this is terrible. This pillow just needs to be thrown out. And then I've seen these like pillows where they like shape around your thighs and you put them in. Are those a good idea or is just a normal pillow just as good?
You can use those. For me, normal pillow is just as good. If you can use what you already have around the house, please do. Like for me personally, I have a body pillow and I need it to go from just above my knees all the way between my feet. Otherwise, I'll notice it at different points in my hips the next day. Other people can just have it between their knees. So you do have to play with it a little bit to see how your body responds the best. But yeah, if you can use what you already have at home, go ahead. And as far as pillows go, ideally, we're replacing our pillow we sleep on once a year because I don't need to freak you out, but it's not great stuff on what accumulates after that year point.
I wash it just,
Which is good, but it's still, there's only so much that it'll take out. I'm just saying.
yeah, okay. If you're listening, I'll take a pillow for my birthday present this year. As you get older, you're like, "Oh, what do you want?" I'll take practical gifts.
I'm right there with you on that. Can you give me a grounding mat? That would be great.
Right. The other thing you mentioned was no intense exercise after an adjustment. I naturally fell into that, partly because it just makes me feel so relaxed that it's a double-edged sword. You feel great, so you want to go do something, but I also feel very relaxed. I do the same after massages. So is it just because our body needs time to repair and heal itself in those 24 hours? Or is it, if we feel great, we go into heavier lifts, our muscles may not be ready for that new alignment of the spine? What is some of the reasoning on why we shouldn't probably do anything super high intensity? I also try to avoid the excess amount of rotation because you just made me feel really good. I don't want to go reaching behind in the back seat to grab something while driving and be like, oh, there went my back.
Exactly. And everything you said, they're a good chunk of the reasons why. So your body has that transition. So when you come in, right, where your body is out of alignment, especially if it's a first adjustment, that is where your body actually thinks is normal. So like when we put it back in, your body's, whoa, wait a minute. What are we doing over here? We're not used to this. So if you can ease it and allow it to just settle in its place, you're more likely to have it hold. Where if you're like, oh no, I'm used to compensating and using this muscle, we're going right back where we were. It's much easier for it to want to go out. Two, if you're doing so much, and it does, right? Post adjustment, you feel looser, you feel more mobile, like you have more range of motion. Like, I think I'm stronger after an adjustment. I stand up taller after an adjustment, right? In those little moments, people have been known to overdo the workout. Like, I'm just going to add 10 more pounds on these lifts that I'm doing, or I'm just going to do another set of 10. And oftentimes that can be enough to push them over where they can injure themselves because they're doing a little bit too much and they're pushing outside of their comfort zone in not the best and safest way. Or you can just throw it right back out of alignment. So I always say, I'm always here for everyone, but I genuinely, as much as I love you, I don't need to see you every day because your alignment's out of place. Your body should be able to hold that a little bit longer than that. And honestly, to your point, vacuuming is horrible for the spine. It's really like people are trying to stretch or reaching into those little crevices. I always tell people, like, keep your elbow to your side, like it's attached, and you move. So if the vacuum can't move in that direction, you don't either. Like, you got to become one with them so you're less likely to throw that out of place.
Which is the importance of functional strength training, doing those that build muscle and make those moves easier so that when you do vacuum, or it is still kind of springtime, we may still have snow that comes to be. We don't know here in Michigan. Making sure you're shoveling correctly, or maybe it's you're getting ready to roof out the garage. Like, all of those motions are weird, and usually our dominant side is what we end up doing. So I think that's a great point of just some of those things that we just do out of habit without noticing.
Yeah. And with what you do, it's great because I know I was able to talk to you about different clients too, and making sure, hey, they're doing a lot of coupled motion. Can you help them have the muscles start triggering in the right order, right? Because oftentimes muscles are going to compensate for other ones, right? Our lower back muscles love to help our leg muscles when our leg muscles are more than capable of doing the work on itself without having the lower back help. And that's oftentimes what get people in trouble with lower back issues and lower back pain.
Absolutely. And those glutes do not like to work. You've got to wake them up. Mini band work is awesome. If you've got dormant glutes, like, it's really important to get them awake, because you're right, our low back. And that's also where those core muscles come in. And it's not sit-ups and crunches. And we've talked about that. It's those dead bums, those really small inner pelvic floor muscles that we talked about with Dr. Andrea Hurst on our other episode this past fall. Is like, our pelvic floor is so important. And chiropractic health helps keep that where it's supposed to be. If you're looking for more pelvic floor stuff, go reference that episode. But if you're in, like, I feel like I want to do some chiropractic, I don't know where to start, take some of the tips here on what you should be doing. Should we be cracking our knuckles? Should we be cracking our nut? I feel like everybody's got their own opinion on this. So what is yours? Is it something we should be doing, shouldn't be doing? Really not that big of a deal if it's not being forced. Like, where does that fall?
Ideally, we should not be doing that. If you are stretching, right? Some people are just stretching, bend down, touch your toes. If something moves and cracks that way, then so be it, especially if it's not triggering any pain. But I've seen people do the whole turn and push, and oh, I just want to cringe, because over time, usually the ones that are doing that, they're doing it on a repeated basis every day. Like, it's not like a couple of times a year, it's on a very regular basis. And so what you're doing is you're actually, again, creating that micro trauma building up. So you're creating a little bit extra laxity in those joints. So not only are you more likely to have arthritis and degeneration set in faster, but you're creating a lot of instability in the cervical spine. And when you have instability in there, that is also going to aid in the misalignment issues, degeneration issues, and you're more susceptible to injury at a certain point, especially when you're doing that with your spine. As far as knuckles go, I'm not going to lie and say I haven't on occasion done that to my own knuckles, but really trying to keep it to a minimum is best. And that should tell you if you feel like you need to do it all the time, there's probably an alignment issue going on that needs to be worked on, right? Not only alignment, but muscle tone, making sure it's balanced, all of those things. There's probably an issue going on there that needs to be addressed. You don't feel you need to. And I've had patients come in that proclaim, oh, I self adjust. And I'm like, well, it's not really as specific. It's a general that we've been able to convert that no longer do their own neck movements like that. They're not overly cracking their neck. So it can be done. It is possible to stop that habit.
Like stopping biting your nails. You don't realize you're doing it until somebody points it out or you start to notice how frequent it is. And it does take time to retrain your body from something that you're probably doing just out of habit without subconsciously. So I want to kind of talk about, because you're such a holistic approach person, and I love it because I love having people in my wheelhouse that are at all sorts of the spectrum, because I work with clients of all different types and we all have our own opinion on how we want to live our health journey. We have some who want to go completely medications, and we have some people who would prefer to never touch a medication, not even an aspirin in their life. And what are some holistic supplements or things that people can do, whether it's, you mentioned a grounding pad or a mat, whether it's, I feel like red light therapy has gotten really big lately. What are some things that you recommend people do on that holistic side that are looking to reduce that inflammation, feel more centered, try not to, I know my AirPods are terrible for me, like things like that? What are some things that you can recommend to people who are looking for more of that holistic approach to their health?
So there's certain things I will say, talk to a provider about first. Do I have a grounding mat on my bed? Yes. Has my husband been under an experiment for the last 2 weeks that I've had it on regularly? Yes. Has he now admitted that he is sleeping soundly every single night since I put it on the bed? Yes, and he has. But those are things that you can do. It does reduce inflammation. Yes. Honestly, electronics in the bedroom is a big one that people need to really be mindful of. So TVs aren't great. They should be out. And I know everybody's probably going to have some feelings about that. But ideally, have your cell phone at least 6 to 8 feet away from you. In a perfect world, you're charging it in another room. But I know a lot of people use it as their alarms. It would be ideal to at least have it at least 6 to 8 feet away. So then that way you're not getting the immediate negative impact from that, right? It kind of disperses out a little bit, so to speak. There are also different things you can do that will help transmute some of that energy you might take on to a frequency that's more resonating with our body that we can tolerate and handle, if that makes sense. Staying hydrated is fantastic. That costs zero money. Making sure you're doing that and getting enough sleep and just taking time. And believe it or not, doing some deep breathing. So some people say it's the square, like 4 in, 4 out, 4 in, 4 out. I personally tell people about belly breathing. And as you breathe in, your belly comes out. And then as you breathe out your mouth, your belly comes in. I know a lot of people, when they breathe in, their shoulders come up. And then we breathe out, the shoulders go down. And that is a sign of dysregulation in the nervous system. And so when we can do the belly breathing, that's actually engaging and triggering your vagus nerve, which is one of those biggest nerves in the body that helps regulate in your parasympathetic nervous system, which is our calming system. When we eat, when we sleep, we're just chill. So post-adjustment, when people say, oh yeah, I just feel relaxed, that's because we've actually engaged and activated their parasympathetic nervous system, which is when our body tends to do most of its healing. So we can actually calm down and regulate our nervous system, right? Deep breathing, adjustments, stretching, all of those things. Your body is putting itself in a much better place to not only boost your immune system, to help your digestive system, to help your skeletal system, honestly, even on that emotional front, to be able to tolerate a lot of the things going on outside of our internal environment.
Yeah, you're right. The TV thing, we just had a sleep episode with Kelly Meyerson a couple weeks ago, and we talked about the importance of not having screens. And it's hard for all of us. I still have a screen in my room. My phone still sits next to me. But have I created different habits of as soon as a certain time goes on, my phone goes on sleep mode and I don't look at it? I now no longer look at it in the middle of the night to see what time it is. I just hope and pray that it's somewhere in the middle where I can still fall back asleep. Because even just looking to see what time it is wakes us up, even if your phone's on dim. So, like, you're all going to have your own stepping stones to what feels right. But I think just hearing it more and more allows it to set in of the importance of it. So, looking at chiropractic health as a whole, what should people take away from today's episode? If they were to implement one thing or be reminded of one thing about today's episode, what should they remember and take away?
Okay, so ideally, I'm going to focus this to the women out there, especially moms, this little part of this little nugget. And I don't know if I've even talked about this in this part yet, but self-care is not selfish. That is the biggest thing that I feel like I've been saying to women lately, right? Because we put ourselves on the back burner. And regardless of what it is that you do, if you're a stay-at-home mom, if you're a coworker and you sit at a desk, if you deliver things, if you're the boss, whatever it is, wherever you are on that spectrum, if you can set up little habits now, right? And I'm talking if you just need 30 minutes in the car to listen to music or scream or vent or whatever, just parked in a parking lot, put it on the calendar. Our stuff always gets put last because I think in general, society has put that if we're not giving 100% of ourselves to everyone else all the time, we're not the best mom, we're not the best coworker, we're not the best wife, we're not the best boss, we're not the best version of ourselves if we haven't completely depleted ourselves to nothing. And I think we need to start making changes in that. And if we can start doing that now and showing our kids, boys and girls, that this is a normal, healthy thing, we are going to be able to be more present. We're going to be happier. We're going to be healthier. We're actually going to be more productive. There are studies out there that show when you do those little things, we can be much more productive as well. And I don't know about you, but if I'm not getting good sleep, if I'm not taking care of myself, I tend to be a little short with my family members. They can attest to that. So if we do those little things and take 15, 20, 30 minutes to ourselves, right? Like I said, your adjustment, I tell you to block off about half an hour, but I can get you in and out in 15, 20 minutes, right? If you take that time for that massage, even if it's once a month, set those things. They are not selfish things. They are not luxuries. I hate when I get with, oh, that's just like a luxury. I'm just pampering myself. I'm like, no, that's a necessity. Your body needs that to survive and to function. So if anything else, I really hope women understand that having those little steps and taking those baby steps in self-care is not selfish. You're actually doing more for yourself and your family than you could possibly imagine, no matter what it is that you decide to do.
I love that. And I love that you just dialed in on that because it is something that we have to hear more than anything else because there's so many years of life looking a certain way that it is so hard to start putting ourselves first. And you're a mom, you're a business owner, you're a wife, you are a therapist to a lot of people, even though you're a chiropractor. That's part of our role as being health professionals is we listen to a lot and it's hard to put ourselves first. So I do have one more question because you dove into there. What is one thing that you do for yourself for the self-care amidst all of two preteen, teenage boy, husband, business owner, traveling chiropractic, having her own practice, like all of the balls in the air? How do you get your self-care in and what does a few of those things look like?
Honestly, I usually get adjusted, checked a couple times a month. I usually either have massage or Reiki done once every 4 to 6 weeks. I put that on the schedule. I'm not always great about getting my water in, but like any coffee mug or anything you see me with, I don't drink coffee. It is always water. So I take the time. I could do muscle testing on myself, right? And figure out what supplements I might need for that next week or month or whatever. But I take time once a month and I go to Ann Arbor. I see Dr. Katie Isley. She does NRT. She's a chiropractor also. She's great. And I let someone else do that, right? So having her do that takes that off for me and I can go in and just be a patient. I can relax and take that time. Little things I do on the daily might not make sense for most people, but for me it does. I try and say 10 things as I'm laying in bed trying to fall asleep. I try and say 10 things that I have gratitude for that day because it really brings me back into what's important. And that's really helped me stay grounded and moving forward on everything. And then in the mornings, get my phone, turn the alarm off. I don't look at email. I don't look at social media. I don't look at anything for the first hour at least of my day. Like the only thing that phone is used for is, oh, my alarm's going off. I got to turn it off again. Oh, guys, we got to be out of here in 5 minutes. Let's go. That's the only, unless someone is calling me, like I'm not responding to text messages. I'm not doing any of that because there's actually studies out there that show if you can not look at that for the first hour that you're up, you are actually much more productive for the rest of the day because it gives your body a chance to wake up, get flowing, and get moving. So it seems silly, but like those gratitude things and the gratitude things, not looking at email. And I have a whole bunch of little quirky things, but those things really are what matter to me. I do my little, gonna be great. I say my little mantra every morning and
That's awesome. And I don't think they're quirky. They are specific to you and what works for your life. And that's really what it's about here is you may have listened to this entire episode and thought, I was always on the edge of chiropractic and I'm still on the edge, or I'm ready to try it out, or nope, I just don't think it's right for me in that journey through my health. And that's okay too. But I want to be able to provide you the knowledge to make a real decision and not let Google and the peers around you be your only decision and education. So that is part of this podcast is for me to bring in guests who are experts who can just give you some knowledge, give you some background. And I know we're probably gonna have some people who have questions or who are like, you travel? We are located in Lansing, so there is a perimeter in which you travel. I know we have people from all over that probably listen. But Rachel, how can somebody get in contact with you, ask you questions, or even see if you've got room on your patient list for them to come and have their first dose?
Yeah. So you can reach out via email, rachelhermandc@gmail.com. I'm sure Morgan will put the stuff in there with proper spelling.
I'll put that in the show notes for anybody who's looking for that.
You can call or text my office number at 989-262-9610. We're still working on the website, so I don't have that up yet, but I'm just more than happy to help. I'm not always going to be the right fit for everybody, but I am always honored to be a part of that journey, even if it's you're contacting me and I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be able to best help you, but I think you should go to this person and go there. There's always contacts. And if you're out of area, I can do my best to find someone in that area as at least a starting point for you. I've got little people around the country here and there, depending on what you're looking for. But yeah, that's about it right now. We're working on the rest of this stuff as far as that. But yeah, feel free to call or text that number and I'll get back to you. Usually same day, honestly. I don't like letting things wait till the next day unless it's really late. And I also have it on sleep. So from 10 p.m. until 6 a.m. or 6:30 a.m., it's do not disturb. So you can call or text. I'm not hearing nothing. So feel free.
I will say I had my phone on do not disturb yesterday and my sister called and I woke up this morning and I was like, oh, nobody's on that list. The sleep mode is where certain people are. So if you have certain settings, make sure you put it on the right one.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here and being a resource for me, for those listening, for really anybody in my circle who is looking for help and support because your body and it's where you want to go. And I think so often as women, we stray away from trying something new or researching something because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to figure out, is this the best option? Oh, it's another appointment. That like, if you have questions or you have people you want me to bring on the show to learn something about, send me a message. My email's in the show notes. You can also find me on Facebook and add me there. You guys see me posting quite a bit. But any last word before we jump off here, Rachel?
No, I think women are more awesome than we give ourselves credit for, and we're capable of doing so much more than what we think. And I appreciate you having me on today. I always enjoy our conversations. There's never a dull moment. Yeah, I appreciate all the work you do too. I always feel it's a very a mutually beneficial relationship between myself and all of my patients and everyone's, because they're always teaching me stuff too. So yeah.
Awesome. Absolutely. So remember, as always, if you have a woman in your life who needs to hear this episode, open up your phone right now, click that share button, send them a text message, let them know why they need to listen and share this episode with them. So until next time, we will see you all then. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Empower Her Wellness podcast. I hope you found today's episode inspiring and packed with actionable tips. Remember, your journey to becoming the strongest, most confident version of yourself is just beginning. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode and join our community of empowered women. Until next time, stay strong and stay confident.